Good morning. This is Jack Sutton Pilsner Coltrane speaking. Getting to Know Him is the first authorized biography of one of America's best loved lyricists, Oscar Hammerstein II. To write this book, author Hugh Forden was given exclusive use of Hammerstein's archives, which cover his entire life, and the right to tape the personal recollections of Dorothy Hammerstein and the five children. In addition, Mr. Forden has included fascinating first-hand stories and anecdotes from personal interviews with many of Hammerstein's illustrious colleagues, including Stephen Sondheim, James Michener, Irving Berlin, Agnes DeMille, Pearl Buck, Mary Martin, Joshua Logan, Jerome Robbins, and Dorothy and Richard Rogers. Clifton Fadiman once wrote, "The Hammerstein family is to the American theater what the Adams family is to American politics, and is equally worth the study." And here in Mr. Forden's book, we have all the color and glamour that were a part of young Oscar's formative years from the Victoria, the vaudeville theater that was famous before the palace that his father ran, where songs and freak acts, including a woman who murdered her husband, vied for the audience's attention, to the enormously extravagant productions of grand opera that his grandfather produced, much to the outrage of the Metropolitan Opera House. In fascinating detail, Mr. Forden goes on to show how Oscar, who was at first forbidden to make his living from the theater, forged ahead to become the most illustrious member of his family in a career spanning 4 decades. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of Hammerstein's career was his close personal relationship with his collaborators. Working with Sigmund Romberg on The Desert Song was oftentimes a hilarious enterprise, largely due to Rami's malapropisms. "You look like a racetrack tout." A more difficult man to get along with, Jerome Kern eventually became Hammerstein's closest friend. With Richard Rogers, however, the collaboration of 27 years was always at arm's length. Said Rogers, "I didn't know whether Oscar liked me or hated me." Using these relationships as a backdrop, Mr. Forden reveals the stories behind the creation of such classics as The Sound of Music, Carmen Jones, Rosemary, are presented with a portrait of a warm, generous human being who made the most of his natural talent and brought joy to millions of people throughout the world. About the author, Hugh Forden was born and raised in New York City. After graduating from the School of Speech and Dramatic Art at Syracuse University, he began to produce summer touring shows and road companies of Broadway plays and musicals, one of which was Flower Drum Song. Producer of several Edith Piaf concerts in Paris, he had arranged her farewell tour in the United States. When she died in 1963, he worked as head of casting for David Merrick. He worked as head of casting for David Merrick before joining 20th Century Fox, where he cast the Boston Strangler and acquired for the studio each properties as MASH, Play It Again, Sam, and Joanna. After a stint at screenwriting in 1973, he wrote his first book, The World of Entertainment, Hollywood's Greatest Musicals, about the Arthur Freed unit at MGM. Jacket design, Holly McNeely. Random House, New York, 102. Printed in USA, 11/77. Getting to Know Him, a biography of Oscar Hammerstein II by Hugh Forden, with an introduction by Stephen Sondheim. That is all for now, ladies and gentlemen. Goodbye.